How long is it going to last? I don't know. Either do you. What can we expect? And here is where I have an answer that I would suggest to you is relevant. If you want to deflect, change, alter habitual behaviors of human beings with bad news or a negative, interfering, preemptive event like a recession, you have to apply negative energy, bad news, at a level that I will arbitrarily call X. That's if you want to deflect people for 6 or 8 months. If you want to deflect people from their normal habitual behavior with bad news for 2 years, you must apply a force 10x, because it is a fundamental axiomatic truth that human beings behave in a customary, habitual, comfortable way that they're used to no matter what almost. They adjust to negative and unpleasantness remarkably fast and then return to their normal patterns of behavior. Exhibit 1, World War II and buzz bombing by the Nazis of London. First few months, terror-stricken population streaked to the bomb shelters. At the end of year 1, people sat in pubs and bars in London, listened to the engines of the buzz bomb go over the top, calculated when it stopped, and then ducked under the table, or didn't, but they didn't leave the table or the bar. That's the incredible adjustment that the population of London made during the bombing of London in World War II. Now that is a radical example of how people can live with pain and dislocation and discomfort. I am not trying to compare the bombing of London to a recession on consumer spending in Las Vegas, but I am making this point that I expect that it will be difficult considering the decades in which Las Vegas has been the playground of America. Add to that the discomfort of going abroad, bad news in Mexico that it's not safe. The Mideast is nowhere anyone wants to go anymore. Europe is not necessarily the safest place in the world. People like going to Las Vegas, people like going to Disneyland, people like staying home. And the cost of doing that is terrific. And people from outside the United States now, thanks to the practices of the airline industry, which are very self-destructive to keep the prices low, they like to travel to the United States. And another thing, thanks to the communications world that we live in, between the computers and the internet and the satellites, everybody knows everything that's going on everywhere. And it's just as easy to come to Las Vegas as it is to go anywhere else. So I see Las Vegas continuing to be the destination resort of the world. I cannot quantify whether that's going to happen in 5 minutes or it's going to last for 4 minutes or 4 months or 12 months. But if you want to know, I see a stabilization, a little bit of a stabilization going on already. People are spending less, room rates are lower, but our occupancies are back up in the 90s, and I think that's pretty much true of everybody. Without giving any kind of special information about quarterly earnings, I think that Las Vegas is going to be there, it's going to survive. And as a gambling executive, you know, everybody thinks of me as a gambler, and when it comes to, you know, the stereotype of a casino owner is that, at least if you watch the movies, is that they're very cunning, they're very smart. They have eyes in the back of their head. They can spot anything in a casino that's going wrong, especially stealing. Well, let me tell you something. I think I've made as much money as anybody else in this business. If someone was stealing something in the casino any smaller than the crap table itself, I wouldn't be the guy that could catch him. Hey, put that crap table down. Take that truck away from the door. Smaller than a crab table, I'm not your guy. I know one thing. You want to make money in a casino, what happens in a casino is people move through the casino. The people keep going, money stays behind. Got that part right. So I concentrate on getting people to be there. So I concentrate on non-casino things. So does everybody else. Some guys do it better than others. We learn from each other. The development of Las Vegas has been over a long time. Each outfit has profited from the ones before. As always, we stand on the shoulders of those who've preceded us. If you forget time in the arc of real estate or hotel development, you make a profound mistake. One of my colleagues wanted to build 20,000 rooms at once in China with enough money to finish 3,000. So we got see-through buildings. Time's an important thing in the development of real estate, and you cannot ever take time out of the equation. So I think that Las Vegas is still going to be there. What has happened to us is we had a perfect storm. Perfect storm in America, and it was reflected in Las Vegas. The federal government, everybody else said everybody's entitled to a home, whether they can afford it or not. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, put some pressure on. Let's get some more homes. Loan officers said we don't want to do it. They said, don't worry about it. Get homes. So they invented the origination fee. And so loan officers in every community were being paid not for making good credit decisions, for passing things on to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Perfect storm. The home builders now had the banks as their partner. Naive and ambitious home buyers stepped up. There was no predatory lending. There were just people who thought they could get what they wanted, whether they could afford it or not. A perfect storm between home buyers, home builders, and banks that were passing the debt on to Washington. I think Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, Mike told me, got to about $6 trillion before they spit up. The music stopped, and there weren't enough seats for everybody. The housing market was bloated. People had homes they couldn't afford, and we are now in the process of repricing that, a painful and miserable process for sure. That was matched perfectly on Wall Street when the SEC let the banking firms print money without limitation, and some of the firms went up to 30 and 60 to 1 in their leverage. You want to buy a company? A $27 billion deal is better than a $22 billion deal. Go ahead and buy the company, private equity firm. It's okay. The bigger the purchase, the bigger the fee, the bigger the bonus. We're all going to have a good time. Investment bankers, private equity firms, hotel developers. Go ahead and buy it. The hell with the price. We're having a good time. My stock and every other stock got bloated and overpriced. 1 5-month period, my stock went from $75 to $170. Now, no company appreciates like that. That's ridiculous. It's pretending there's no reality. Who believes in such fairy tales? In my case, I sold some stock to the public. And declared a return of capital dividend and put the money in my bank account with my Japanese partner and my other shareholders. Still got that money. Not doing real good with treasury bills, but I'm conservative. This is what happened, and the world, and Las Vegas included, got overpriced and bloated. People started hotels. I had an old-fashioned idea that you don't start a project unless you got enough money to finish it. Now, that became a very old-fashioned idea. We'll get the money later. Don't worry about it. You're going to spend $7-8 billion. We'll get the money later. You got a big fat credit line, never have to pay it off, it'll roll over. Well, that kind of thinking, that kind of irresponsible lack of attention to capital structure has been the biggest problem we've got so far. Look, Mike taught me in the 70s and tried to teach everybody else a simple lesson. Your capital structure is a main tool of your marketing. Look, I can spend all the money I want making a building. I can add all of the hand-woven fabrics and fancy marble and ornamental metal. Sure. And make the place damn pretty. And if I don't have good taste myself, I can hire designers that have good taste. It's done all the time. And at the end of the day, the building is serviceable and functional and will allow the employees to give good service if it's well conceived. And that to that extent, the building is an asset. But if the creation of the franchise may be 10 or 15% related to the facility, because the day that the place opens, that part is finished and over and done with. The building is what it is. But what makes people come back, what really creates a franchise, is word of mouth, not fancy commercials. It's good to have a fancy commercial. It's good to make people laugh with a gecko for Geico. It's good to get people to go, oh my God, is he really sitting on the roof? Is that guy dumb enough to be sitting on the roof? The answer was yes, and that immediately made me like everybody else. So they like me. He hasn't got a brain in his head, he's up on the roof. Okay, commercials and all that, they help expand or at least explain a place. But the truth of the place that keeps you from being a BS artist, that's what causes word of mouth. That's what causes people to have a good experience. Guest experience, if it's right, people tell each other, they come back again and again, and you got a business. And tomorrow's better than